the big story and the big announcement that we were all waiting for has finally come through. Karnataka will see a single phase polling on May 10th. That's when voting will take place, counting will take place on May 13th. Chetan joins us with more details on the story, and also we'll do a bit of a SWOT analysis for the top three parties, the top three contenders in Karnataka. Chetan, over to you.
As you would have been reading and watching, campaigning had begun in Karnataka a while ago, although not officially, while the incumbent was busy inaugurating statues and facilities, universities. The opposition was not far too behind. They held a series of rallies for the Congress of Bharat Jodo, which was not directly linked to the Karnataka election, kicked off in some sense their campaign mode in Karnataka. The JDS has had its own campaigns going on, which culminated earlier this week, Mandya, which is JDS's stronghold. So elections have been all around in Karnataka, even though the current government's tenure ends on May 24th. And with the official announcement of the schedule of events for the Karnataka elections today, the one thing is that the model code of conduct will come into place. But as the CEC has said, various agencies have already been on ground looking at various expenses, the kind of freebies that were doing rounds. There have been seizures done already by the Commercial Taxes Department, Income Tax Department, the State Police, and now that will only pick up a little more. So these are all indications that political parties had already sort of started on campaign mode.
Right. Two challenges that the Election Commission clearly mentioned in polling as far as Karnataka is concerned, and it made a comparison with Northeast, saying that this is slightly different in terms of the context of polling. Two challenges: one, urban apathy, and second one, money power.
Yes, the second one, I'll take the second one first. Money power. CEC had said this even when he was in Bangalore, and anecdotal evidence that we found over the last fortnight or a little longer, we've seen that per head, the kind of cash distribution that was happening even in cities like Bangalore has been increasing, although there's no way of gauging the exact number or putting a finger to a number. All political parties have been indulging in luring the voter. There have been pressure cookers that have been seized, saris, and liquor and cash also in some constituencies. But the Election Commission has been very, very clear, and they've in fact urged agencies to employ existing laws and not wait for MCC to kick in. And that has also been happening in Karnataka. So money power, when he says, although he didn't elaborate, we've known in the past in Karnataka that all parties spend extensively across the sectors, and particularly in some key sectors, including cities like Bangalore, where money is doled out. And so far as urban apathy is concerned, see, there's no one reason that anybody can attribute this to. There are multiple reasons. So, for instance, in 2018, there were also some evidences found much later that the electoral roll may have been slightly inflated, because typically they say that roughly about 65 to 70% of a population is usually eligible to vote. And last time, the Bangalore electoral rolls had up to 90 lakh people, while the overall population was said to be slightly over a crore, which could also be the reason for a percentage dip, so to speak. And other reasons include that Bangalore is cosmopolitan, with it's a city of migrants. And in India, it's not unusual for people to retain their votes in their respective hometowns, but work elsewhere. And I'm not talking about seasonal migrants alone, but even a lot of people who may settle down in Bangalore. They have all other entities in Bangalore. They have their houses in Bangalore, but they would like to go back and vote somewhere else. This is intrastate especially, and also interstate, where a lot of people don't like to change their official addresses. Uh, those things aside, Bangalore has, at least from when I've been sort of looking at elections more seriously, has been, struggling with the voter turnout. We don't vote as much And successive commissioners have tried to change that, and it has been improving the last 2-3 elections, but it's still yet to reach the average that the state seems to have.
In that sense, actually, this is seen in some other urban centers as well. But coming back now to the three big players in this election, the BJP, the Congress, the JDS. Where do these parties stand? Because everyone will right now tell you that we are confident we're winning this election. So, if you were to look at the strengths of each of these parties, let's start with that, and then we'll go on to some other concerns that have been dogging these parties.
See, if you look at strengths of all three parties, as stated by them and as reflected so far, the BJP is very clear that it has a double engine government, the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, that can deliver policies more efficiently and also erase any bureaucracy that exists in a federal setup like India between states and the union government, which often has resulted in delays of implementation of several policies. And the BJP also claims that in the last 4 years, there has been good governance in the state. On the contrary, the Congress feels that people in Karnataka are looking for states. And when you look at the strengths of Congress for this election, particularly, I don't know if anything is really visible on the ground in terms of Congress's electoral strength, because with elections, it's all about counting. You only know what happens once the polling is done. But there's a visible perception battle that the Congress appears to be slightly ahead of BJP, where initial, issues that DK Shivkumar and Siddaramaiah, the two top leaders, had seem to be now ironed out, at least on the surface. And they're putting up as a united front. They're campaigning together. They seem to be doing the same line when it comes to taking stand. And with Rahul Gandhi also expected to return to Karnataka for campaign in April, and in the backdrop of his disqualification and conviction, the Congress has started a series of protests, some of which it hopes to communicate. Because of that, they're planning to reach at least about 1 crore households independently. They're planning to reach out to 1 crore people. So their campaigning is going strong. And for JDS, the strength is the stronghold, the Vokaliga stronghold in South Karnataka. They seem to have done pretty well in the last elections, and consistently that has been their stronghold. And JDS still looks to expand, with people from the party that I've spoken to say that now they're looking at better chances in a few seats in the North Karnataka region and also some in the semi-arid Central Karnataka region. They say a lot of groundwork has happened, and although the candidates will be fresh, uh, they still see a chance of them crossing the line, and that would hamper both the BJP and the Congress's growth. So BJP's strength is that it's been in the government, and it has a government with Prime Minister Modi in Delhi. They're pushing that, and Congress is playing on BJP's misgovernance, and they're trying to make that their strength. And also going back to what the previous government under Siddaramaiah had done, they're trying to showcase some of those achievements while throwing light consistently on corruption and other issues that the BJP government has been facing allegations over.
This is the interesting bit, especially about the BJP. In Gujarat, BJP actually changed its chief minister, changed its cabinet 1 year before polling. In Karnataka, there were multiple allegations against the chief minister, against the government. The BJP didn't follow that same strategy. The tallest leader of the BJP has said that he's done with electoral politics, but he's still very influential. There are contractors who've gone on record to talk about corruption, and they've made those allegations. The Congress has tried to use that as a platform with the campaign of Pay CM. So, as far as the BJP is concerned, besides the double engine growth, how does it plan to counter all of these other things?
See, if you look at the changing of chief minister that you spoke of in Gujarat, so Karnataka has already endured that once. If you remember in 2019, after the post-poll maneuvers when BJP actually formed the government, it was B.S. Yediyurappa who was the chief minister. And somewhere midway, he was asked to step down, and Bommai, who personally has a clean image, was made to replace Yediyurappa. So I'm not sure if the BJP could strategically make another change, because in the previous term they had nearly they had three chief ministers at least, with Yediyurappa even going to jail at the time. So I don't know if they could make more changes, because unlike in Gujarat or even say UP, the BJP doesn't enjoy, uh, for want of a better word, monopoly in Karnataka. It is still a very tough fight, and Congress is neck and neck, and it may even be slightly ahead at this point. Things could change over the next month or so. So BJP cannot take things lightly, and it wanted some sort of continuity in the government. And so far as the allegations go, I think by and large they've all been brushed aside by the BJP so far. And the fact that there haven't been any formal complaints in terms of police complaints or evidence being presented. These have all been, in form of letters to the Prime Minister and press conferences and allegations. In specific terms, the fact that the contractors have refrained from, I mean, they've threatened multiple times that they will provide evidence. The fact that they haven't done that may have worked for the BJP. But most recently, one of their MLAs was caught red-handed, and he's been arrested now after the High Court rejected a bail that he had availed from a lower court. That issue is there. So how the BJP plans to counter this, they're going on an offense. At least so far as all the speeches you can see when Union Home Minister Amit Shah was here, or when Modi was here, even what the Prime Minister said outside of Karnataka yesterday, where he says he's going on the counter offensive and saying that all corrupt people are trying to attack the BJP and malign the BJP even nationally, and that's the kind of rhetoric they're trying to use even in Karnataka. So they simply say Congress is corrupt, and DK Shikumar has multiple cases. So for every allegation against the BJP and the government as a whole, BJP seems to find independent people in the opposition that they can attack and use that as the counter attack.
A very interesting story that you have done talks about how it's not always that the party that gets the most votes ends up forming the government. And isn't this something that political parties will be very, very aware of in Karnataka?
Very, very aware of, and I think those who have been at the wrong end of it, so fear consequences of having another fractured mandate or a hung assembly. Because since I think after the SM Krishna government in 1999, there's never been a government that has been formed with the party that got the highest votes.
Defections and horse trading.
So a variety of issues have ensured that, barring the 2013 elections when the Congress had got clearly more than the required magic number, which is 113, they had reached the 120 mark and they were able to form government by themselves. But if you put that aside, all other governments have been, coalitions or formed by parties that didn't have the maximum number of votes, so to speak. So parties are aware of that. They are mindful of that because some of them have orchestrated it. Some of them have felt the consequences of it, which is why both the BJP and Congress are vying to at least get 120 seats. Their aim is much higher. I mean, the targets are much higher, but they would be content if they cross the 120 seat mark at least. But it's too early to call.
If you were to look at electoral issues, because often people talk about electoral issues, but the elections don't always get fought on those electoral issues.
So elections may even be fought on those issues. But I don't know if voting really happens on those issues. That is the distinction. Because if you look at stump speeches and even outside of campaign, there are issues. There's clearly the issue of poor infrastructure in Bangalore, which is Karnataka's largest district, even politically in the sense. Bangalore has 28 constituencies
and is home to about nearly 20%
of the electorate. Bangalore is responsible for the highest tax collection in Karnataka. So with all of this, imagine the IT corridor in Bangalore just coming to its knees and urban flooding. And later you find out that stormwater drains have been encroached. So these are all issues that have impacted people, personally, and you would think that they would remember it. But whether or not it translates into voting a party out or supporting another party, that we'll have to wait and see, because it would really be a fool's errand to sort of guess whether these things will have electoral impact. But these are certainly the issues: corruption that we just discussed, poor infrastructure management, waste management has been bad in Bangalore. There are a series of these issues even across the state. If you look at some of the northern districts, there are several issues that are very specific to that region, all of which come up in election campaigns, in speeches. But whether or not people en masse sort of go and vote because of these things, one just cannot, I think, specifically comment on that. It's really been a puzzle that I think psephologists will have to take many years to decipher.
All right. In fact, Karnataka last election in 2018 voted, in fact, gave the Congress 78 seats, gave the BJP the highest number, which is 104 seats, gave the JDS 38 seats, and it was some deft politicking that actually got the JDS and the Congress together before BJP came back to power in just about a year or so. So even though, like Chetan is talking, even though there have been clear indications in the past, always first past the post does not necessarily ensure that that party can go ahead and form the government in Karnataka. Also, another interesting thing that is going to take place in Kolar, the site of that infamous speech of Rahul Gandhi in 2019 ahead of the Lok Sabha elections, because of which a defamation case was filed against him in Surat, in which he had been convicted and now he has been disqualified as a result of that. He is going to go back to Kolar to address another rally. So things are definitely going to hot up there as well.
Yes, certainly. It's been in the last 30 days, if you see, there have been multiple visits by national leaders belonging to the BJP. The Prime Minister himself has visited Karnataka on multiple occasions. The Home Minister was here twice, matter of 3 days last week. But Congress has so far relied majorly on its local leadership, with Rahul Gandhi arriving in Bellary earlier this month, and his sister Priyanka had made a couple of announcements much earlier in Karnataka. But by and large, the campaigning has been on the shoulders of D.K. Shivakumar and Siddaramaiah. And now that elections have been announced and Rahul coming back in the first week of April to Kola, will, in political parlance, maybe kick off the Congress's campaign in a big way.
Right. Also, a couple of points I want to mention before we wrap up. The Election Commission in its press conference today said that voting from home will take place for those who are over 80 years. There are also special arrangements being made for voters who are above 100 years old. And these are also important factors that the Election Commission has taken into consideration. There's also going to be web streaming from some sensitive polling booths as well. Chetan, we'd like to wrap it up here. If there's any last final comments before we actually end our introductory session, as it were, for Karnataka elections, there's going to be lots of conversations, lots of analysis also coming ahead.